Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another week at Beyond the Trailer Park. And this week, joining us from the wilds of Pennsylvania, Beth is here once again. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good to see you. And back from vacation from parts unknown, but in now the wilds of Mississippi, which has turned into frat boys, the return of the frat boys. Good evening, Morgan.
Good to have you. I long to be back where I was before.
I hear ya. And from the Eclipse zone over in North Carolina, good evening, Professor Stephen. It's
good
been a
evening.
while.
It has. Good evening from North Kakalaki.
Kakalaki, nice. Yeah. So, were you inundated with Eclipse tourists?
Yes. Yes, we were. I barely got home in time to do the show. So, yeah.
Oh, damn.
All the traffic.
You have to, kick them and be like, look, bitches, I got a fucking show to do. Get the hell out of the way. Don't you know exactly. I'm the professor?
Yeah. The police were letting us run through stoplights because no one on the side roads mattered. So they were actually directing us through the stoplights to get home.
Awesome.
Because apparently where I work was like one of the best places to go to see the eclipse.
Oh. And
I agree. It was my employers actually bought us eclipse glasses, and we took an hour and a half middle of the day and went out and watched the eclipse. It was quite nice.
Well, this is what happens when you work with and for scientists.
That's true. Yeah.
Science, and they're like, hey, you should watch this because it's pretty damn cool.
Except for management, of course, they don't care. But all the actual science people, yeah, some of them were really excited, like little kids.
Aw.
I like that.
You got a really good picture, I saw, so that was really cool.
Yeah, I took quite a few, actually. I was the only one that could figure out how to get the camera on their phone, and I used the glasses over the phone to filter it out for the phone. Then I had to change the exposure on the phone to get it to focus in on the. So anyway, I was the only one that could figure that out. So everyone was like, "Oh, share the pictures with us." So I did. I shared. I took quite a number of them.
That's cool. I managed to. So we couldn't get glasses of any kind, not even the welding glasses. So the thing going around was, well, use selfie mode on your phone. Okay, that was a dumb fucking idea, at least here. Whoever said use selfie mode, because as soon as I turned on selfie mode and tried to put it behind me, it reflected the goddamn light right in my face.
Oh.
I was like, no, selfie mode is not cool. But I have a decent, my phone is pretty big, as you can see there.
Yeah.
And so I just used regular camera mode because it blocked it out that right works across my eyes.
That's basically what I did, and I used the lens on the camera, the goggles on the camera, until it went into till it got so close to complete totality that it became dark, and then I removed the filter.
Yeah.
And then, of course, at that point, I actually just looked at it.
Yeah. Yeah, which is fine then, but I managed to get some lens flare photos, which was kind of cool. I did not know that was a thing. So I'm taking pictures. This is how unscientific I am. I'm taking pictures and I'm like, it looks like the sun. I don't get it. Why can't I see anything that doesn't look like a giant flame ball in the sky? But I posted them anyway, kind of going, well, I don't know, it doesn't look any different to me. And one of my Facebook friends is like, you can see it in the lens flare over there. I was like, well, damn. All right, then. I went back through my pictures, and there was a lens flare basically in every one that had a little picture. And so I have from 10 minutes before to 20 minutes after, and there's the ass end of the moon kind of.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, I got quite a number of pictures, and if you scroll through them, you can just it sort of almost animates like the eclipse is happening. So that's kind of fun.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, I'll give you guys a link to them after the show.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. We can share that. So, Morgan, did you see much of anything?
So I was getting my hair dyed and everything at the salon. So my hair was like, and I thought they would be done before the eclipse, but they weren't.
Oh.
I have this lovely dark rose gold color. I love it. But
It looks good.
thank you. Yeah, so I was getting my hair was soaking wet and I was in the sink and I heard them playing on the radio, you know, Eclipse of a Heart and all that. And they were saying, "Oh, everybody's standing outside," because it's in a little shopping center where I was. And so everybody got out of a department store and was looking up and everything. And I had some glasses in the car just in case, but what happened was right before it happened, a ginormous cloud rolled right over it. So I was like, yeah, if I can't see it, no one can see it.
Oh, shit. I
We got
know.
I saw it get
dark.
I saw it get dark, but that was it.
That's too bad. We got lucky. We had a cloud that was there, but then whenever it got stuff started getting interesting, the cloud rolled away and we were actually able to see it. So
that's good. So we had 70% coverage here, and there was no perceptible change to the level of sunlight at all. Yeah. Except that now my front hall in the house looked kind of dark, but
yeah,
outside, because I was outside, right? Because they said 2:30 was the peak time of coverage that we were gonna get here. And I went outside and it was sunny as shit. I was like, okay,
yeah,
well.
You're at an angle to it. We were right under it, so it looked. You could feel the temperature drop whenever the eclipse happened. Yeah, you would hear some of the crickets and things, and animals start to make noises.
We heard crickets too, because we had 90%.
And it was so. Actually, a number of us pointed out said normally like 2 o'clock to 2:30 in August in Western North Carolina is just intolerably hot, and we're all like, "Oh, this is so nice." It just felt good. We're like, "I wish this would last for a while."
bit of relief from the steamy humidity.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Because I mean, I've been down there in not August, and it's been damn humid anyway.
Yeah. It felt like not dusk. It felt like everything relaxed and it was all calm and dark. It was just nice, and especially in the middle of the day at work where you're rushing around and you're downing energy drinks and trying to get crap done, and then all of a sudden it's just this cool, calming darkness and an awesome thing in the sky to look at. It was real nice for while it lasted. Yeah.
Excuse me. Wait. Apparently, I don't know. Am I allergic to sun? Maybe, I don't know. I actually got. I was out. I was heathen camping on the weekend with Hamilton Humanists, and I don't know if you guys could see that, but I got burnt.
Oh,
I got these.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
you got to put on your sunscreen.
I did. I don't know why it didn't take, because usually I slather that. I use the spray can, and I buy like number 60 for babies,
right?
And I spray that shit.
Okay, like, you do like I do. I don't care about getting a tan. I don't want to get a burn, and I definitely don't want to get skin cancer.
I can't tan. I have 3 choices. I have fish belly white, which we see here. I have lobster, which you see over there. And I have spotted, which thankfully is largely covered by tattoos now. So, yeah, I don't tan, but I was sitting out in the campsite yapping with people all day Saturday afternoon. So that's what I get for not checking it and redoing it, I guess. I don't know. But yeah.
There's this article going. Oh. But there's this article going around on Facebook. I've seen it shared twice now with pictures of a woman getting treated for a big skin cancer on her forehead. And every time it comes around, I'm like, I don't want to see this. Don't do that. And if there's anything to motivate you to put sunscreen on, it's that. Please.
I can imagine. Okay. Well, even as a kid, because if those of you who tend to listen and as opposed to watching. I'm a very ginger, and the only people paler than gingers are albinos. And so 10 minutes, like when I used to work at a factory and they had the smoking, when I smoked back then, the smoking area was a picnic table, just bare out there. 10 minutes on a break, I would burn. Right. So yeah, none of this sun worship. When I was a teenager, a couple of times I thought if I burnt enough, maybe I would tan. But a couple of really sore weekends cured me of that idea in a hurry.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Ugh. I even remember my brother was a ginger, and when he was like 2 or 3, I guess somehow he got defective sunscreen or something, and his shoulders had like 2-inch blisters on them. It was horrible. I just remember that.
Yeah, I got really badly sunburned at a water park as a kid and got sickness from got sun poisoning and throwing up sick, and that was the last time I intended to ever get a sunburn, ever.
Yeah. I don't blame you one bit. So, Beth, you didn't see much, though, did you? You were kind of busy today.
I think I may have slept through it.
That's okay.
I was in and out of it all day, and it didn't. We only had 60 to 70%, and
right.
It really did not get dark, and I really didn't want to take a chance and even go outside and screw up my new eyeballs.
Yes, because Beth had her cataracts fixed a few months ago, so that's understandable.
Well, it's actually been over a year, believe it or not.
That's shit.
I had my yearly checkup, and other than a few minor issues, that they're fine. So it's kind of like, I don't think I'm going to screw that up in any way, shape, or form. Like, some fucking dumbass
I was going to say
that stared up at the sun because he thinks he's fucking invincible.
I know, I was going to say, and what international moron decided it would be a good idea to stare directly at the sun today?
Well,
I didn't even want to go out to even take a chance of accidentally. I mean, because the brightness does bother me because I have macular degeneration and glaucoma, so bright sunlight bothers my eyes. So I didn't even want to take a chance. And I got home. I had to go to the store. This was long after the eclipse. And click on Facebook, and the first story I say is fucktards staring at the sun.
Yeah, let me tell you about that. Now, first of all, of course, everyone from time to time glimpses the sun. So a glimpse here and there is not going to do you any harm. If it did, everyone would be blind, right?
That's right.
And of course, during my time of taking pictures of it and looking at it through my glasses, every now and then got an eye full. Quickly, though, usually the pain is enough to make you go, nope, stop looking at that. Then you see spots. We'll see if I did myself any harm tomorrow. I don't think I did. I think the problem with the eclipse, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just pulling this out of my brain. I haven't researched it. I think one of the reasons why the eclipse is so dangerous is because it doesn't hurt as much because the light's been muffled a bit by the moon. So you stare at it longer and you get more UV hitting your eyes.
Yes,
that sounds right.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Trump, though, the unfortunate thing is, I mean, I don't want to sound like an asshole to people who support Trump. No, let me rephrase that. Fuck people who support Trump.
They're not listening to us anyway.
Yeah. I really hope that he does have issues from staring at the sun. I hope he has a medical condition from it and it gets reported in the news. Because the reason I hope that is so that people won't start emulating him. Then again, it's going to be a number of years before we have another eclipse in the U.S. And so by that time, dumbasses will have forgotten.
Next year in Ohio.
In Ohio? Okay, well, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, well, maybe some dumbass Trump supporters in Ohio will blind themselves.
If I remember correctly.
Okay.
But I think there's one next year in Ohio.
What I thought was ridiculous was I read the story, and apparently he had some staff members standing out with them, And he had probably the most expensive fucking solar eclipse glasses you could get. He takes them off and he's staring at the fucking sun, and his staff people are like, Mr. President, don't do that. Mr. President,
for fuck's sake.
Mr. President.
Here's
and
the thing,
he completely ignored them.
Of course he did. He never takes anyone's advice from anywhere because he's a narcissist.
And he knows better. He's better than everybody. He can stare directly at the sun, and it won't hurt his eyes.
I hope it does. I hope there's repercussions for his stupidity, because he deserves some repercussions. But the fact of the matter is, he probably didn't stare at it long enough for it to actually hurt his eyes. So,
well, and that's the thing. There was a story that I read yesterday. They're in their 70s now. But the eclipse in 69, I think it was, they were like 10 years old, and they were two friends, and they went out, and for not even, they said maybe at most 20 seconds, they both did the one eye wink looking, and both of them did opposite eyes. One did the right, one did the left, and they both have damaged their sight when they were kids. And he said, you know, we didn't even know it until the next day. And they actually go around the it sounds like they go around the country or the region where they're from. I don't remember their location exactly, but they said, you know, we've done everlasting damage to our eyes when we were like 10 years old. And what it does, it literally burns your retina.
Yep. With
like,
radiation.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, and one article I read said it could be as short as 5 seconds, depending on when you look at it. Now, you can look at it when it's in totality.
Yep.
For that one or 2 minutes that it's in totality, but as soon as the moon moves away, starts to crescent,
yep,
you can't, because, like you said, it gives it, excuse me, that filterish. And being one who spent 2 years looking through wax paper from my cataracts.
Yeah.
No. I mean, how anyone would even want to remotely take a chance of damaging their eyes like that. And I know a few other people that may or may not listen that are, you know, we're in the same boat. I mean, why would you even take a chance to damage your eyes?
If I got a glimpse of the full, you know, of the strong burny sun, whether it's before the eclipse or after, or even when it's not an eclipse at all, I try to avert my eyes immediately. And I know that just that fraction of a second, I'm seeing spots, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine holding my eyes open for 20 seconds. I don't know how long Trump stared straight at the damn sun. But if he did do permanent damage to himself, and we won't know until tomorrow, probably, like you said, 24 hours, chances are he won't tell anyone. He'll keep it a secret and act like he's fine.
Yeah, he'll be like doing this.
He'll start walking off of podiums and falling on his face, and that can actually be highly entertaining.
Yeah, Mr. Magoo. You're better than Magoo.
But what I told Deb, what's crazy about this is that there are adults who had a job today, and their job was to make sure that the President of the United States does not stare directly at the sun, and they managed to fail at that. It's like, how am I struggling to get a job after law school? How? I don't understand.
Well, what makes it kind of
surreal.
Surreal or apropos is allegedly the funding that pays our Secret Service is no longer. In 7 months, President Trump and his family have annihilated. So our Secret Service allegedly are no longer being paid for the rest of the year.
Because they're out of funds.
Bankrupt, essentially.
Yeah.
From following those, from all the vacations and golf trips he goes on and stuff.
Well, what's going to happen? Are they just not going to protect him?
Well, what would you do if you realize the fucktar that you're supposed to be protecting isn't paying you?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. I wasn't getting paid. Like, what the hell?
Now, in defense
of
the Secret Service, I would have a hard time believing that any of them would ever jeopardize the life of the president. I actually know one person who is a secret, or was a Secret Service agent, and these people are very unique people in the sense that they will give their life to protect the president.
It's a sacred duty as far as they're concerned, and I can respect that.
So
to not get paid is just outlandish.
Yeah.
It's just disgusting.
You have to live.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're funding for the year, but anything overtime, like going with Junior to, Dubai for grand opening, that would not be covered. That would be on their own time. But
it should have been
Mar-a-Lago, when he goes to Mar-a-Lago, it costs minimum $3 million a pop.
Yeah. He could have paid for Meals on Wheels with 2 trips to Mar-a-Lago, but instead he cut it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I will never forgive him for. There's not even George W. Bush would have done that. Not even Dick Cheney would have done that.
You know what? Maybe if we could get the quote fake news to report that the Sun decided that it wanted to give him a special encore presentation, we could get him to stare at it a bit longer.
That's so fucking stupid. It's funny because I remember the years of George W. Bush, we were kind of amazed at how dumb he was. But George W. Bush would have known better than to stare at the fucking sun.
George W. Bush is like a fucking genius next to Trump.
I know. He's the guy I look at and I'm like, this is a man who led our country. And I'm just horrified. I'm like, I hope nobody afterwards makes me look at Donald Trump the way I look at George W. Bush now.
Yeah.
I
Who
think
could they possibly elect?
Bush, it was more naivete.
Yeah, it was.
And with Trump, it's because he's a fucking narcissist.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's really no comparison in that sense because, I mean, Bush would actually listen to his advisors. Granted, he may have been getting crappy advice. And
also,
he was very,
I would add this.
I don't think there was any malice. Sorry, Stephen.
I would add this though. George W. Bush, even though he was born with a silver spoon up his ass, has at some point worked an honest day's work.
Yes.
And therefore knew how to be an honest working human being. Donald Trump has never worked an honest day's work in his life.
Yeah.
He's never had to. He wouldn't know how to if he could. He's never done an honest day's work as a student. He's never done an honest day's work as an employee at all. And so he's completely incapable of doing an honest day's work now as a president.
Absolutely.
Well, when he's not even in office, 3 weeks, and he's 3 or 4 weeks, and he's saying, I didn't realize healthcare was so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We all did. Except for everybody.
Yeah. Well, a narcissist, one of the things that defines an actual pathological narcissist, and yes, I'm not a psychiatrist, so I can't diagnose him with that, but I see all the hallmarks of it because that is something that I sort of studied as sort of an armchair study to it. I can't say I've studied it like I have chemistry, but one of the hallmarks of a narcissist is that they have this fake omnipotent personality they put out in the world, and underneath it all, they're a child with a malformed personality. And that's what I see.
Yeah,
that sure sounds like
stare at the sun.
That sounds like someone who would stare at the sun. Yes, absolutely. Yep. So speaking of the sun, because we could talk about dumbass all fucking night. So we talked a little bit earlier, Stephen, and you made a comment about. So this was the moon that was blocking out the sun. So
correct.
Just to get some details about what we may or may not have seen today, because some people might think it was the Earth that was doing that, which doesn't happen. I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
So if the Earth's between the moon and the sun, we don't see anything. It's just the sun. If the moon's between the sun and the Earth, the moon can be in front of the sun, and we can get a total eclipse, or we can get the other kind that I've forgotten the name of, annular or something like that. Oh, now someone out there who knows this stuff is going to be like, Professor Stephen, come on now. But there's another kind of eclipse where the moon is a little further away from the Earth, and so it's smaller, and so it doesn't completely blot out the sun. And then we have a lunar eclipse, which is where the sun's on the exact opposite of the Earth from the moon, and so the shadow of the Earth, as we know, the moon is just reflecting the light of the sun, regardless what the Bible says. And the Earth gets in the way of the sun, and the moon goes dark. So that's the other kind of eclipse. And of course, the joke is if the sun's in between the Earth and the moon, that's called an apocalypse.
Yes.
So yes, the moon. And the interesting thing is there's this apologetic, this proof of God that some Christians and Muslims use, claiming that it's impossible that it could be that the moon is exactly the right size to be in the sky, exactly the same size as the sun. Now, the moon is so many times smaller than the sun, but the sun is so many times further away that they look almost identical in size. So we get these solar eclipses that you wouldn't get on any other planet, and that's proof that God made everything somehow. Well,
yeah,
they're partially right. It does appear to be, at least, an amazing coincidence that the moon is just the right distance and just the right size to be exactly the same as the sun, except it's not. It's not exactly the right size. The relative size of the moon changes because the moon doesn't orbit the Earth in a direct circle. And so sometimes it's a little bit bigger than the sun, sometimes it's a little bit smaller than the sun. But it is within a margin of error around the same size. And that's how we can block out basically the fullness of the sun and just see the corona around the outside of it. And in about 250,000 years, the moon will be too small to do that. It will be too far away.
Oh.
It's actually the orbit that the moon is taking around the Earth. It's actually decaying and it's moving away.
Right. Okay.
And 500,000 years ago, the moon was so close that it was always a total eclipse. It would cover the entire sun. And before that, it would be bigger than the sun. The coincidence, and it is a coincidence, that during the time that human beings evolved and became technologically advanced, the moon happens to be, relatively speaking, plus or minus a little bit, the same size as the sun, which is really convenient for some scientists who want to block out the sun and look at things. We'll get back to that in a minute. But that is a coincidence that the other planets in our solar system don't have moons like that are near the size of their sun. So they don't have solar eclipses like we do. They would just have little black dots go across the sun, right? Because the sun, or whatever, or a giant black moon that just covers the whole thing. And so, yeah, there's a coincidence there. Does a 1 in a billion chance mean that God did it? No. Improbable things happen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. Like I always say, when somebody says, "Oh, it was this minuscule probability that life could have evolved on its own," I'm like, well, actually, the probability of that now is 100%.
100%, yeah.
It happened.
Exactly. Being improbable is not the same as being impossible, and you don't have to have a God to make improbable things happen, especially in a gigantic universe. But it is pretty neat that we have that feature, and I like to imagine that in the future, maybe we'll have a future like Star Trek, although we'll probably more likely have a future like Mad Max, but whatever. A future like a future like Star Trek where we actually meet other races that evolved on other planets and maybe have friendly contact with them. I like to imagine there would be tourism to come to Earth to look at this really neat solar eclipse that no other planet has. You know, it's something besides life that makes our planet unique. Although I say that, the only planets that we really know about their moons in that much detail are the ones in our solar system. So who knows? This may be quite common. We just haven't got enough sample size to determine that yet, because it's hard enough looking for exoplanets, much less moons on exoplanets, and determining what size they are relative to the sun, relative to that planet. It's kind of difficult.
That makes sense.
Now, the thing that's cool, though, about it being very nearly the same size as the sun and blocking out the majority of the sun, since it blocks all that light and heat, you can see things around the sun that you normally couldn't see because it would be too bright, and including stars that are normally obscured by the sun's light. And what's neat about that is if there's a star whose light comes close enough to the sun that it would be obscured by without the solar eclipse, well, relativity makes a prediction on how the gravity or the bending of space-time around the sun will change the picture of the stars near it. Will basically, because of the gravity, the light will bend. And the stars whose lights is going really close to the sun, the light will actually pull towards the sun, and you'll see the positions of those stars change from what they would normally be if the sun wasn't there. So this is also predicted by Newton's force theory of gravity. But if you look at the math, when you calculate it in the Newtonian way, you get one set of numbers. And when you calculate it the Einstein way with general relativity, you get a different set of numbers. There's a difference. And so after Einstein published his theories, they waited and waited until they got the next really nice solar eclipse, full eclipse, and proved Einstein right.
Nice.
And that was the moment when Einstein became world famous. Went from being just a great scientist to being a world famous person. They measured the distance that those stars had moved compared to a picture of the sky without the sun, compared to a picture of the sky during the eclipse. It said these numbers only match Einstein's predictions. They do not match Newton's. Einstein has disproved Newton.
Wow.
That's pretty amazing. Damn.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna also ask. I've seen a bunch of astrology woo about the eclipse.
Yeah.
But, I don't know if you had a point that was more relevant to what we were talking about earlier, though. But I would like to get into that.
Oh God, astrology. Astrology is to astronomy as libertarianism is to economics. But anyway, all right, go ahead. I pissed somebody off with that. But anyway, okay.
I love it.
That's okay.
But
so,
go ahead.
What about astrology? The fact that people are scared of eclipses and think they have some meaning. Like there was this church down below where I work that had this sign up, "Are eclipses or eclipses?" I don't know which is correct. "Are eclipses signs from God?" You know, come to church and find out.
Okay.
And that blows my mind because most people know I follow the Fringe, and of course, people like Ann Lutz, which is Billy Graham's daughter, is having a field day, and Brian Fisher, and some of the more well-known is the dude that discovered the blood moons.
All that shit.
Like, I don't remember. I think it was I made a meme out of the Ann Lutz one, and I'm like, or it might have been Scott Lively. I can't remember who. I've made so many memes the last couple of days. But basically, it's like they're all amazed. And it's like, dumbass, we've known for yada yada years. When it's like I can tell you right now, the next eclipse is in 162 days, 10 hours, 45 minutes, and well, it's probably down to 43 now, and 30 seconds.
Exactly. Yes.
I mean, this is not some miracle from God. I mean, and then they're like trying to say, well, maybe we had the darkness for 3 hours during Christ's crucifixion was an eclipse. An eclipse lasts at most 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Right, exactly. No.
Not fucking 3 hours.
How could if something? Okay, we have been able. Okay, we can accurately predict eclipses, like phenomenally accurately now. Right?
Like we knew exactly what time of day to go outside. Like they told us here, go out at 2:30, and you'll.
And they
see
can get scientists can get it down to like the millisecond, I think, or even more than that.
Yeah.
Like,
well, this has a list if you're in Chicago. This is for the next eclipse: Chicago, Illinois, Mexico City, Singapore, Dhaka, Bangladesh, Tokyo, Beijing, Jakarta. Well, I mean, these are places they know where it's like.
And here's the thing: how long have we been able, as a species, to predict eclipses with relatively good accuracy? Within, it's going to happen today accuracy, only about 2,700 years.
I was going to ask you that if you knew how long we. Okay, I knew it went back to quite a ways, but I wasn't sure about the exact time. But yeah, 3 separate
civilizations: Mesopotamia, at about 700 BC. They wrote things down, right? They like to write things down, and so every time they had an eclipse, they wrote it down. They wrote the time, and they could do some math, and they Just collected data and then figured out they could predict these things. They were cyclic. They were periodic. And so the ancient Mesopotamians figured out in 700 BC. Now the ancient Greeks improved on that quite a bit, as they would.
Yeah.
And not only did they, but the Chinese around the same time figured it out. And probably Mesoamerica, probably the Mayans did too, although a lot of that information's been destroyed by Europeans doing what Europeans do best. But so 3 separate civilizations, hundreds of years before the time of Christianity, before that was even an idea, knew how to precisely predict eclipses.
Yeah, the thing I've seen.
I
was going to say the thing I've seen the most of, though, is so I see people on the right that are saying, oh, the eclipse is a signal that we're getting this glorious leader and he's going to have these moments of power and things like that. But then I've also seen on the left where people are saying that, you know, eclipses signify, you know, that a leader is about to be I guess dethroned or something. I guess whatever.
They don't signify shit. Okay, yes, there was some ancient superstitions about eclipses and leaders. I think the Romans had one of those ideas, but they're periodic. They're predictable.
Yeah,
we could have predicted this eclipse literally thousands of years ago and gotten it right. If the Mayans or the Chinese or the Greeks or the Mesopotamians had bothered to try to predict it up this far ahead, they could have done the math and figured it out within.
Well, there was a bit of apologetic that I read concerning the blood moons, the whole blood moon phenomena of the recent, and it's like they're trying to take coincidence and make it a reality, and it's like, well, if you look at the history, Deb's favorite subject, you will see that it's coincidence. I mean, it's just like, instead of connecting the dots in a straight line, they're all over the place. It's like, of course, Jewish history, what we see in the Bible and the Talmud, is going to coincide with these occurrences. They most likely timed it that way intentionally.
Right.
Because they could predict this fucking shit.
I mean, when was the Bible supposed to be written down? About 500 BC or something like that? So the Mesopotamians had already been friggin' predicting these things for 200 years before that shit was written. So I'm not really very impressed.
Yeah, and it's just like, and that's the thing that you take it, like, you throw in the astronomy. There was a meme, I think Saibei put it out, where listing all the signs of the zodiac and basically saying planet, I don't remember exactly, but planet X does not affect your birth sign, you know.
Right.
Like, and it goes the whole, you know, all the planets, like, there is, I mean, no planet is going to affect when you are born, and that's basically what they're trying to do. Is they're saying that, you know, this eclipse is will impact. Well, okay, I can say, well, this eclipse, did impact. We got a bunch of fucking Nazis running around our street.
They count the hits and not the misses. Like, they don't count the times when literally nothing.
Confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Well, here's one. Here's an argument I would like to make. Okay, so you're saying that these eclipses are a sign of, or this eclipse specifically is a sign that Trump's awesome. All right, well, let me ask you this question. Isn't Trump being president, did we not do that of our own free will? As evangelicals, most evangelicals believe in free will. Well, if I could predict that eclipse, that there'd be an awesome guy who'd be president 2,000 years ago, I could predict this eclipse, then there is no free will. Those events would have happened no matter what. And then if there's no free will, there's no fucking point in a sign because you can't change anything anyway.
Well, it's the whole thing. Prayer, like, nothing fails like prayer, because it's useless if God's already made up his mind.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes along that, and they can't answer that.
The only people that could say this is a sign are Calvinists, because everything was preordained to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's a sign given to nobody for no good reason, because everything's going to happen by God's design anyway.
Yeah, so there's nothing we can do about it. We can't see the eclipse and be like, oh no, something needs to be done.
Yeah. God's sending us a message. Well, we could have gotten that message 2,700 years ago. So, you know, whatever. I guess it's not. Nothing we could have done to change it.
Also, what they're saying is they're saying that this will especially affect Trump because he was born during a partial lunar eclipse, and they're saying the planets were aligned and something, and that is what causes erratic behavior, and that I've seen more of that from like the more left wing though, is that like it's the planet alignment and all that, the woo-woo stuff.
I really, really wish that the left could be rational. Could be the truly rational group of people, because the right is the right really is just irrational from top to bottom. Even ones who claim that they are rational really aren't. Most of them just think they're being rational, but they're really just working on intuition. But you would think that the ones that oppose these fuckers could be the rational group, but no, the left is full of loons who believe all kinds of Age of Aquarius nonsense.
So let's say they wanted some auspicious thing, even when Trump was born, a cesarean was a thing. They could have, hey, there's going to be a lunar eclipse on this day. Oh, well, we'll have little numbnuts on that day.
Well, they do the Texas sharpshooter.
Okay. Fallacy. Well, people do that. People do that shit now. They're like, oh, well, I want to have my baby on my birthday. Like if the due dates are near enough, obviously they're not going to risk a preemie, but oh, well, it's within, 3 days. I want it on my birthday. So they'll go and schedule a fucking cesarean for whenever they want it.
Right. Well, the fact matter is that when I said the Texas sharpshooter fallacy, that's basically where you shoot the gun and then you draw the bullseye right where you hit.
Yes.
If you want to prove that somebody had some weird mystical shit going on when they were born or whatever, you could find something. You can find some dumb thing that stupid people will believe has some mystical woo-woo power if you look hard enough. Just draw your bullseye around where your bullets landed. That's all.
Exactly. Yeah. So, Morgan, did you hear anything really wacky else that it was supposed to predict this eclipse?
Just about that, and that it's going to affect all the signs in some way.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
All the
in some way,
it's going to affect them, and they were also talking about how Trump is also a Leo and how that's the sun, and so
he's also chocolate. He's on the same frequency as sun, right? No, sorry, he's orange. Never mind, wrong flavor.
I know. I was like, he's also orange, and they didn't say that. That would have been hilarious if they were like, he's orange, so that
looks like the sun.
To the sun, and it was. Honestly, reading this, I think it was on BuzzFeed or something, and it was some astrologer out in LA or something. But I mean, honestly, this is pretty fringe. Like, I don't know if anybody. I've never had a conversation with anybody or seen on Facebook or Twitter even about this. I found this just on my own. I saw it was just an article, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And then I read it, and I was just like, "Is this satire?" And I was like, "Oh no."
It almost makes me wish that I'd maintained some of the ties I used to have with the psychic fair when I was doing ghost hunting. Because I don't know, Stephen, if I ever told you that one of the ways our group tried to make money for equipment was we would produce our own DVDs and sell them at a local psychic fair that happened like every long weekend.
Oh, I bet some of those are just amazing.
I'd be curious to know what some of them were saying this week.
Well,
would you like a small wee little list of some of the crazy shit?
Oh, sure.
Is any of it contradictory? That's always fun.
There might be. I haven't read the list completely.
Okay.
One is that it's the sign that Nibiru. Now, remember, Nibiru, which is Planet X, was supposed to happen in 2012 with the Mayan prophecy. So Nibiru is
yes.
It's still in the news here, and it's going to come. Nibiru is going to collide with the Earth in 2 days. So
in 2 days. Wow! I didn't
2 days.
Even see
fuck.
There's a planet 2 days out, and I didn't even see it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. This one I don't quite understand.
Oh, do you know isn't that part of the plot of The Man from Planet X, the movie from the 1950s? That the Planet X gets By the way, that's a good movie if you like bad sci-fi.
Bad 50s sci-fi.
Actually, I wouldn't say bad. It's actually pretty good. It's just.
Well, here's a question: if there was a planet hurtling towards us less than 2 days away, would it not be larger looking than the sun at this point?
It depends on how fast it's moving.
Okay.
But I would expect NASA to have picked it up.
NASA hides all that, but I suspect that any one of the, I know 15 amateur astronomers in this area would have noticed it by now. I don't. The conspiracy to hide the incoming of Nibiru is quite elaborate.
Oh, I see. What's it supposed to be? Because if a planet crashed into Earth, that would be the end of us. The end. Is that what they're saying is going to happen?
Yeah, basically.
But why would they hide that? Because they would die too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the conspiracy behind the hiding of Planet X or Nibiru coming in is just so back-assward that it's just it doesn't even hold up on, under its own weight because it's just so stupid to begin with.
Yeah.
I've never met a conspiracy theorist that can answer me the question, what is the end game? What's the point?
Exactly.
No one can ever answer me that question.
World domination.
Yes, the man from Planet X, the Planet X, it gets closer to Earth than it ever has before, and that's when the man from Planet X is a scout for invasion, and he lands in the moors of Scotland, and that's where the entire movie is. I recommend it. It's quite good.
If Planet X hits the planet, though, there won't be a planet to dominate.
Yeah, that's true. In this case, it just got real close.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Another wiggy-wom conspiracy is that they call it the 33 convergence. Now, this one's a little bit, I don't understand it quite. It's based on prophecy in Isaiah. And
oh God.
Yeah, it gets really weird, but let's see, where's the other one? We already talked about the Trump lunar eclipse one. But one guy goes, Trump was born June 14th, 1946 during the lunar eclipse. His astrological sign is Gemini, but his Leo rising at 29 degrees on the star Regulus, and Mars is in Leo. I mean, this is how far they will go to justify their woo. Is like they'll make up, Leo rising as like, no.
Yeah, and such is in retrograde, and what have you got for us? No, it's not. It's fine, Stephen. It looks backwards to you.
I see.
This is good. He's got the movie poster for the man from Planet X. Yeah. The weirdest visitor. I love the weirdest visitor the Earth has ever seen. Yeah. I know some weirder ass people than that.
Yeah, he's not a lizard person at least, right?
Yeah, no reptilians.
That was another one for South Carolina, and from what I understand, if I read the articles correctly, is that even some of the local officials were concerned about lizard people appearing in South Carolina.
Yeah, lizard Bigfoot.
For fuck's sakes.
Oh, that's
a lizard Bigfoot.
Yes.
I've heard.
Is Aaron Rod hitchhiking down there again?
We do a lot of drugs down here in the South. Drink a lot of moonshine with a lot of questionable ingredients.
Yeah,
and
that's
sometimes we see Bigfoot, and sometimes we see lizard Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I see.
Made. It's like somebody that calls in. They're like, "I was smoking crack in my house, and I saw the lizard Bigfoot."
There's lizard Bigfoot for you right there.
The crack may have had something to do with that, buddy.
Just a little.
Is it legal for me to shoot a lizard Bigfoot because it's an endangered species?
Oh, here's lizard Bigfoot. Lovely. Yeah. With his big glowy red eyes.
Yeah. And his pointy head, but you can't see it because it's off the top. But yeah.
No. He's a Conehead. Oh shit. Oh, maybe the Coneheads movie was part of the conspiracy to, I don't know, to make people think the lizard people would be harmless buffoons, and so they wouldn't care if they saw one. I don't know.
All the aliens are real. All of them. All the aliens.
Yep. All the aliens, and they're all coming from the sun right now because the eclipse, that was the point. There's an eclipse. Now they think they all have to come here. So, any minute now, a horde of aliens is going to land in your backyard and you're fucked.
And tell me, how are these people any different from the natives that we think of as primitive and backward, that huddled in fear every time there was an eclipse, that sacrificed animals every time there was an eclipse?
Absolutely nothing
even more
different.
Rational, I think, because it's like even back then, I mean, I know there were some civilizations that could predict it, but if you huddled in fear, it was because of ignorance. They didn't know what was causing it. But today we have facts. We know what's causing it. So I'd argue they're even more ignorant.
I agree.
Yeah.
They don't have excuse. They don't have a good excuse. The primitives, they had an excuse. They didn't understand it. It was not explicable to them, and it would be quite terrifying. And they would pray. The best of them would pray that the gods would bring the sun back, and the worst of them would sacrifice a person because their religious leaders told them to. But it's the same deal. Whatever. It's the same thing. Only those natives didn't have they had a good reason because they were ignorant.
Because no one had discovered what causes any of these things, so they made what to them was the most logical conclusion. That it was something that they were
beyond their
that
control.
they had no control over.
Yeah, exactly. They assigned agency. They assigned agency to it, like humans are wont to do, because we evolved that way. And yet, some of them figured out. They didn't figure out that it was. Necessarily that it was the moon was a big rock and the sun was a big fire and it just got in the way, but they did figure out that it was predictable and periodic. And even then, some of them that had to assuage some of the fear when they realized, oh, this is just a thing that happens. We don't know why. And then later on, those still primitives figured out what it was, because we're not different. We're not a different species. We're still those primitives. Well,
if you remember back, back in the day when science started to be able to explain some of these natural phenomena, the church as a whole rejected it because it was a threat to their authority. They knew. I won't specifically blame the Roman Catholic Church because I don't think it was just them. But when there was a natural explanation for these things, the church railed against it. We all know the story of Galileo.
And that was the Roman Catholic Church.
I knew that was specifically the Roman Catholic Church, but. Yeah, anything that's going to take away their authority, they're going to rail against and say no. They want to keep these superstitions alive. It was a means for them to control the masses. And when people were illiterate and unable to read, it was much easier to do.
During a total solar eclipse, the moon moves between...
Sorry.
What the...
Sorry.
I was like, it's God.
No, I was just doing a quick Google while Beth was talking, and I Googled weird predictions made based on the eclipse and came up with this one. It says, Black Moon, does solar eclipse fulfill Bible prophecy of apocalypse and second coming?
No.
And it had a fucking auto play video on it.
Let me explain something. Even if you accept the ridiculous proposition that Jehovah is real and the Bible is his word, eclipses mean dick. It doesn't make any sense even within the framework of Christianity. It's bullshit.
Did y'all see that meme that was going around? It was like, what if everybody, it said this, it said, what if, everybody's looking at the sun, S-U-N, the sun, S-O-N, comes back.
Comes back. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, that was another one. Is that this is the sign?
I did not see that.
And now they're getting pissed off because the sun's
apocalypse.
getting too much attention.
Yeah, then there's that. I mean, the reading the nuttiness has actually been kind of but of everything else. But it's like you were saying, Stephen. There's some really crazy ass shit, and it's not just one side or the other of the aisle. It's on both sides.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you want to make that distinction, I mean, it and a couple of friends, and I would consider for this area very highly educated, who, as I said, they purposely went out and looked at the eclipse without the glasses just because they think it's a big scientific conspiracy of some sort.
There's never been a scientific conspiracy. That's ridiculous and impossible with the way science works. You can't have a conspiracy because
exactly.
Well, it's just the stupidity involved in just these people believe as far as with the eclipse is just amazing.
Yeah.
It's like no wonder.
Well, like this comes from some website called Express, and I'm guessing it's heavy on the religion because their logo looks like a crusader.
Oh yeah.
But it says many fundamental Christians see this as a significant warning of the impending apocalypse, the second coming of Christ, and the rapture.
Okay, so we could have predicted the second coming of Christ 2,000 years ago.
Yep.
Okay.
So then it says, Pastor Paul Begley, host of the Coming Apocalypse radio show, well, there's a credential for you, said the eclipse... Yeah, so unbiased. The eclipse could possibly fulfill a prophecy recording in the book of Joel. This states, quote, "The sun shall be turned to darkness before the day of the Lord come." Begley said that... Enough. Oh, yeah.
More vague with that?
He says, somebody sound the trumpet because the eclipse may mean we are living in the last days. Writing for something called unsealed.org. Someone named Gary Ray says the eclipse may mean that 2017 will mark the beginning of the tribulation, a time when the Bible describes a period of conflict and suffering in a scale never experienced in mankind's history.
I have a couple of questions. One, why all the weasel words? May, could, make. That way you can get out of it when it isn't, right? Second of all,
exactly.
Why hasn't all the other thousands of eclipses since the time of Christ been the harbingers of the tribulation? I mean, it's pretty, that the sun will be turned dark is a harbinger of, well, that happens all the damn time. And this eclipse happened over the United States. Why would that be the place? Shouldn't it be the eclipse over Israel, over like Armageddon, like the Valley of Megiddo?
You'd think.
Yeah.
You'd think.
It's just so much bullshit, even from a Christian point of view, it's bullshit. Christians, you gotta know your fucking religion better than this shit. Please.
Well, what it comes down to is that a lot of your more woo-yer fundamentalist evangelicals, they have tried to incorporate U.S. history into biblical prophecy.
They made us the central figure of it when we're not even mentioned.
It goes into the whole Zionist. I really hate using that word, but the whole Zionist idea, and it's like, seriously, just to interject here, I just found another picture of Dumbnuts staring at the sun, and he is fucking squinting so hard. It's like it's bearing him and Melania, and it's like, yeah, he's gonna be blind tomorrow.
As Stacy Rebel says,
let's hope.
Stacy Rebel calls him Dolt 45.
Love it. Hi, Stacy. Dolt 45. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I was kind of partial to Scrotus. That's a good one. So-called ruler of the United States.
There you go.
Or Lately, though, probably Twitler fits the best.
Twitler. There you go.
I like that one.
Yes.
I like the Scottish insult. They called him an apricot mangled hell beast.
Yeah.
What was the other one? The orange-faced shit gibbon.
Yes, that one.
Yep.
That's a good one. That's a good one,
Mango
too.
Mussolini.
Mango Mussolini. Or Cheeto-lini.
Dayglow Man.
Dayglow Man.
Dayglow Man. Agent Orange was another one I like.
Yeah.
Eclipse flummoxes flat Earth fans.
Yay! Oh, good. Flat Earth is a good one to get into.
That whole thing with the maybe I'm seeing this wrong, but there was this meme relating to flat Earth, and they were saying that the eclipse would actually disprove it because it would show the reflection of the Earth onto the moon, and it would be flat. But
yeah.
Is that asked backwards, or am I reading that wrong?
Well, I'm not certain. What I think is going on is there's more than one explanation as to what the moon actually is amongst flat earthers.
Yeah,
and
it's a projection.
Yeah, and so what an eclipse is then becomes even more difficult to explain. Yeah, you've got to have your head so far up your own ass. You've got to have your head so far up your own ass. You're in your own stomach to be that full of shit to believe that the Earth is flat and the moon's a projection. I mean, what happened? How did our entire country fail you?
I think it's because they want to feel like they know. Like, oh, all you are idiots, and I'm the one that knows the real truth, and you all are a bunch of sheeple.
That's the up your own ass thing I was saying, because
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. I've been working with a group from they're largely YouTubers, Stephen, called the Great Debate Community, and one of their regular hangouts they tend to do almost weekly now. They call it Rum and Coke Night, but they go and troll flat Earth channels, and the stuff I have seen is just unbelievably mind-boggling. Like one guy, we let him in our hangout, and I mean, he seemed like a nice enough guy, but he was a Texas boy who was living in Oregon now, I think. I don't know, but he got out the glass bowl and the flashlight, and the whole like, no, just go outside and look, and you'll see the moon isn't like what you say it is, and all of this, and we're just sitting there going, you're fucking nuts, buddy. Like, no.
It hurts my feelings. It hurts me as an American to have other Americans that stupid. Of course, it hurts and
they're proud
other Homo sapiens that stupid.
Yeah, they're proud.
Yeah, like this. They're proud of it because, just like Morgan said, they have this idea, and I say it goes back to religious thinking, because
I think so.
And some of these people are religious still, but it's this idea that I'm special, I know something that everybody else doesn't, I'm sort of, quote, chosen and whatever, and so they're going to be like, well, I figured it out, and I know that you're all being lied to, and that NASA's fake, and all of that shit, and it's that same religious feeling of, I want to be special, I want to be more important than the average person, yada yada. So they
I'm also put upon, and I'm a victim.
Yes.
Yeah, they were claiming they're being persecuted, like the flat earthers. I was reading an article about how they say, oh, we're being persecuted because people make fun of us, and I'm like, well, yeah, because you believe in dumbass shit. And also, as I say, just because you have an unpopular opinion does not mean you are correct.
No, they actually do make that as an argument, that they thought Galileo was persecuted, by the religious fundamentalists, not the scientific community.
Yeah, and a lot of people are persecuted who were wrong as well.
Yeah, that's not a metric of anything. of anything. That's not a proof of truth or falseness. You're burned at the stake as a heretic, whether you say there is no God or whether you say God's a woman with 3 breasts. Okay, both things will get you burned at the stake in Catholic Europe. One of them's true, the other one's bullshit. Doesn't matter.
Exactly.
As long as you say something that's not that the people in power disagree with.
Mm-hmm. No, it's just unreal. The here's one. This was I googled flat Earth eclipse, and this is what I got.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the meme I was talking about. It's like, but it doesn't mean. I mean, the Earth doesn't reflect off the moon. It just.
No. But it's supposed to be what our shadow is. Okay, that would be. That would be a lunar eclipse if the Earth was flat.
Yes.
That's what I thought. But it,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then the moon would get blotted out. So.
Yeah, the moon. Since the Earth's a flat disk, you'd only see a flat line on the when the shadow between it and the sun. One thing that I always
or their turtle holding it up. That's another one.
Yeah, there's this one. There's this one. There's the turtle.
Yeah, there's a turtle
with the elephants.
I always want to ask, why is it that the Earth is to flat earthers? Why is it the Earth the only thing we see that's not a sphere? Why is it?
Oh, that's an excellent question.
They're all projections.
Yeah. You can't deal with these people. Their thinking is poisoned to the point where I don't think there's any reasoning with them.
No,
I don't know.
There isn't.
Have you ever met a deconverted flat earther? I mean, I've met people who were, of course, deconverted religious people of all kinds. I've met people who believed in 9/11 conspiracy theories that changed their mind on that. Oh, that was really hard. And some other conspiracy theories, and I met people who went from being hardcore Republicans and libertarians and other things like that and became more reasonable. But have you ever met someone who used to be a flat earther?
No, I think it's like you're so much denial. I think that at that point, like all reason, when you get to that point, it's like all reason has left and there's no coming back.
Exactly, because they pretty much believe all the other stuff I mentioned too, right? Yes. Like that's just the last straw that broke reason's back, basically.
Yeah, and it's like you can't have a reasonable conversation with them because they're like, oh, well, you're a sheeple or you're, a lizard person from the London banking district, which we all know is code for
you're
Jews.
Jews. Yeah, you're a shill for science or some shit like that, or you.
I'd be a lot richer.
I was gonna say, if you guys were to put the nut jobs on a continuum from like flat earthers and the 9/11 truthers, all them, where would, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you place, flat earthers and the eclipse nut jobs?
They're on past 5. I'd put them at 8 or 9.
I agree.
Yeah. I don't know what would be a 10. I'm saving 10 for something like people who believe that reality isn't real or something. I don't even know.
Oh, your Matrix.
Yeah.
Well, reptilian believers are pretty high up there.
They are. The funny thing is there's 2 kinds of reptilian believers, because Alex Jones on his show, I hate that man with every fiber of my being. Not only is he a conspiracy theorist and dangerous about some of the shit he slings out there for right-wingers, but he also is a snake oil salesman on top of all that, and I hate him for like multiple reasons. But he talks about the lizard people, but that could turn off some of his more just sort of fundamentalist Christian audience, because fundamentalist Christians, in my experience, don't believe in aliens. Aliens are bullshit as far as Christians are concerned.
Well,
so,
they're demons.
They're demons.
Yeah, and so
exactly.
In some circles they are the embodiment of demons, and usually the people that fall in that line also get into the whole Nephilim, Genesis 6 giant stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really bizarre, but all these conspiracy theories or all these pseudoscience they're all interconnected.
Oh yeah.
And that's what makes it so hard to unwrap exactly what these people think, because like you said, people that believe in flat earth or have a tendency to be 9/11 truthers and all this other shit, but our crossover, and what makes it so dangerous in my opinion is these people take that science that they think they know and transfer it over to anti-GMO, anti-vaccine, and all that. I mean, it's like one big wad of clusterfuck.
Did you hear about the conspiracy theory about Alex Jones?
Which
one? So not that he's like purely an act, but this does have something to do with it. So he was in Seattle. He was there after I left, I guess. But he was in Seattle, and they say that there was some man that was he was yelling in some man's face, and the man threw coffee on him. So there's a theory that guy that threw coffee on him was basically a paid actor, and the Seattle police kind of had something snarky to say about that, because somebody on Twitter, they messaged the they were like, at Seattle PD, have you arrested the guy or anything like that? And they said, oh, well, for all we know, Alex Jones could have been a crisis actor pretending to be Alex Jones.
Exactly.
Well, that goes to his whole notion that the Charlottesville incident, all
false flag.
Well, yeah, besides being a false flag, he's saying that the Antifa people were all paid actors, but not only them, they brought in fake KKK people, yada yada yada. I mean,
both sides were paid off to fight each other.
Yeah,
why?
I mean, because the wants to impose martial law so they can. It's just
they didn't even impose regular law.
But wait, isn't their guy in charge? If he wants to impose martial law, like.
But apparently, even though he's the head of the country, the most powerful man in the free world, he can't deal with the secret black government that actually runs everything.
Well,
it's the black secret.
Go ahead, Deb.
It's the secret black Jewish government, isn't it?
Okay, I meant the dark government or the behind
deep state. Oh, the deep state. Oh, yeah.
If they're so powerful, couldn't they keep Trump from getting elected?
You would think.
Well,
they couldn't even keep him from watching the fucking sun, let alone getting elected.
Yeah, the thing is now is that some of your Nazis, and I will not call them alt-right, they're fucking Nazis. Excuse me, when you walk down the streets of America with a fucking swastika, you're a fucking Nazi.
Well, technically, they're not Nazis because they weren't part of Hitler's regime. They weren't in the 1940s Germany. Okay, neo-Nazi. Fuck yourself. Yeah.
There's an Audubon field guide to racists.
Jones and some like him, Brian Spencer is another one, David Duke is another one, are basically borderline anti-Trump, because after his initial statement on Saturday, was it Sunday or Monday when he came out with his revised statement, they're pissed off at him and now say that he is under the dark state's control. I mean, it goes so fucking...
Anything that they don't like is deep state.
Yep, it's the same.
Yeah. Okay,
why is this
you know what? I'm just like, you know what, you fuckers. Okay, everything's a goddamn conspiracy. Everybody's a crisis actor. Everybody works for the fucking deep state. We're all Russian spies.
Why does this resonate with certain people in this country? I'll tell you why. Getting back to the core point of your podcast and mine, my former podcast, religion.
Yes.
The biggest conspiracy, the top conspiracy, the one they all come from, is the conspiracy of the devil himself, his demons, and the men that work for them.
Yeah.
Those devil's agents.
What makes it even weirder, and this is one that I just ran across this morning, but they take this whole deep state conspiracy that Trump's now working, and that's why he did the statement, and they're twisting that, if you want a really whacked out conspiracy, that this eclipse was a means of distraction.
We predicted
Oh, yes.
Those people, everything's a distraction. I'm like, I can focus on multiple things at one time. I can also walk and talk.
Yeah, I don't see how half these things are distractions. How then did they manufacture a distraction coincidentally to happen to the second exactly where scientists predicted it 100 years ago? Explain that to me.
That's why if you, I was reading an article on say psychology behind conspiracy theories, and I probably have 150, 200 articles total, but a lot has been coming out this year, and basically it comes down to is they have to use conspiracy to explain their conspiracy explain their conspiracy. Yeah. It's like
this is just it's like a lie. Conspiracy theories are just like lies. Whenever you tell a lie, then you have to tell another lie to back up that lie, and then tell another lie to back up that lie. It's the same type of thing. It's an ad hoc rationalization.
And these people that buy this bullshit don't seem to realize the enormous quantity of people that would be required to keep any one of these fucking theories soluble.
Yeah, there would be leaks. Now, there are crazy people that go on talk shows and claim to have, I was a member of the dark state. I was in the Illuminati, and I go out. It's like,
The one meme that I saw, basically dealing with conspiracy theories, and I just lost my thought.
I hate it when that happens. Yeah, I mean, there's dumb people, and then there's getting on a more philosophical side of conspiracy theories and religion, and especially bad stuff that encourages people to do bad things. When does a person stop being a fool and start being a villain? If you know what I mean. I mean, at some point you feel sorry for the people in the pews. You feel sorry for the people who were raised with conspiracy theories, and you're like, they can't help it. They've been lied to. They're believing things that were lies that people they trust told them. They're just fools. They're not evil. But then those fools decide to be ministers, and they decide to spread that word, and they start making up their own lies, and they start doing their own. When does a fool become a villain?
I think it's when they start making up their own nonsense.
Right.
At that point, like just repeating the bullshit they were told.
So at that point, you think maybe they figured out that it's kind of bullshit, but they've ignored that fact because they're making money,
or they believe or they. I think some of them do believe it, but they think, oh well, either that they think, oh, I had this thought, so it must have come from God. Or that they think that, oh, well, if I tell a lie, it's not a big deal because it's for Jesus. And I know deep down all this stuff is true. But, if I tell little white lies, it won't matter. I think there's that.
You got a point there. Sam Kinison, before he stopped doing it, before he became a comedian, was a traveling faith healer. And
oh, shit. I did not know that.
Yeah. People talked to him and he said, well, his rash said, I was lying. I was making shit up. But I was making people happy, and I felt like that was more important than it being true. That people went home feeling good. That's how he rationalized it to himself.
Right. Well, it's like the psychics that I knew at the psychic fair we worked at. There were two very distinct groups there. There were ones that, for whatever reason, believed that they had some kind of ability. I think they were just naturally good cold readers and didn't understand what they were doing. And they honestly thought they were helping people. They didn't feel that they were fleecing people out of their money. They honestly thought they were providing some kind of insight to people. And then there were the ones that were pretty sure that they knew that it was all bullshit and that they were deliberately fleecing money out of people and drawing on, their customers' desire to believe and
right. There's word for that. Is it like eye and opened eye or something like that?
Shut eye and open eye?
I don't know. Because there were some people that we were friendly with, and I'm like, later on when I because for a while I thought that maybe there was some sort of scientific way that these things could happen, and now I know that's not possible. But you know, there were people that I was positive if they thought for a minute that they were, you know, fleecing people out of money, that they would quit. Like I always think back to the people in, I think it was one of James Randi's videos where he set up the dowsing test, or was it Dawkins? And they set up the dowsing test with the tent and the bottles of water, and it was double blind, so the people running it didn't even know where the water was. And these people who've been dowsing for decades and I make a living at this, I'm really good at it, and they couldn't do it. And a couple of them were just absolutely mortified and dumbfounded and looked really shocked that they couldn't actually do it. And one of them was like, wow, I have to reevaluate practically my whole fucking life now.
Yeah, that's called being a shut-eye. That's the word. It's it comes from stage magicians and illusionists and mentalists who, now I call those people honest liars. They come out and say, I'm going to lie to you for an hour. It'll be entertaining. Some of them get so good at the illusion of mind reading that they start to believe that they can actually do it.
Yep.
And so they call them shut-eye in the lingo of the magicians.
Okay.
It says the term was, here I'm looking at the Wikipedia article, Orson Welles used the term. He feared that he would fall victim to the delusion. He was actually afraid that he would get so good at being a mentalist that he would begin to think that he actually had the power. And you could talk to No Illusions about that with his tarot reading. Mm-hmm. He was really good at doing the tarot reading thing, and he believed that he was actually doing something for a long time. Then, of course, you got the opposite of the shut-eye. I don't know if they're called open eye or just charlatans, crooks, or liars, whatever. The ones who aren't honest liars. They don't say, I'm going to do a show for you, but say, I actually have psychic powers, knowing full well they don't. Tambourine rappers. I mean, you can read stories about how Arthur Conan Doyle used to fall for those people back in the 1900s. And what's the greatest magician that ever lived? Houdini. Yeah, Houdini would go with him and debunk them because he knew how all the tricks worked. And these people weren't shut-eyed, thinking they had real power. They'd set up special effects. Mm-hmm. You know, they had gimmicks under their tables and stuff. So.
Absolutely. Well, like the people in the 19th century who figured out how to do Photoshop before Photoshop existed and were making up pictures of like fucking fairies and
those are some kids. Those are some kids.
And I have pictures where they're like, oh look, it's a person with ectoplasm coming out of their nose, and I take one look at it, I'm like, that is wadded up fucking cotton. Like, you know, they've taken some raw cotton and wadded it up their fucking nose, and it's hanging out, and they're like, look, it's ectoplasm, and I'm like, oh, are you fucking kidding me?
There was a lot of that because in the 19th century that shit became really popular with rich people, and they were willing to spend a lot of money.
Yes.
And so there was a lot of charlatans doing fake ghost apparitions and things like that.
Well, there was an article I saw today where they were talking about how Russian technology, back before we had Photoshop, they could actually eliminate people from photos. So going back even further, I mean, the technology was there. It's just people are too naive to see it. And in regards to your Richard Dawkins video on the water dowsing, it's from the Enemies of Reason.
Okay.
I think it's in part 1, Slaves Superstition, and it is on YouTube by the Science Foundation.
Well, speaking of faith healing as a version of this, and it really is a version of this, it's just one that's couched in religion, so it's even more lucrative. I remember, and I wish I knew from where, it was probably a podcast I was listening to. A former faith healer was talking about how he got out of the business and how it was like being in it. Basically, they had this philosophy they never shared with the audience, that you fake it until you make it. So faking faith healing was doing nothing but bolstering the faith of those in the crowd so that real healing can occur. And so he felt like he was justified in sort of lying to people because it bolstered their faith. But he was shut-eyed. He thought he really was healing people, even though sometimes it was hobos he'd paid to pretend like they were healed. But he realized that it was fakery whenever he went to a convention, and one of the other pastors there showed him psychic surgery. So this is a good thing you can do. This really works on people. And then he realized, wait a minute, I'm just selling people a bunch of bullshit. This is all just tricks. That's whenever it sort of broke, and he opened his eyes and realized.
Yep.
I don't know who that was, but that was an amazing story. But if you want to see someone who I watched an interesting film about someone who was a faith healer who got out of it. There's a movie. It was a huge deal back in the 70s, and it's been forgotten. It's called Marjo, Marjoe.
Okay.
I forgot about that one.
No.
Yeah. It never played in the South because they were afraid there would be riots. But there was an evangelist named Marjo Gortner, and he'd been preaching since he was 4 years old.
Yep.
Wow.
And he gets a bunch of documentary film crew and goes behind the scenes on his crusades, on his faith healing ministry, because he wants to get out of his conscience that's sort of bothering him.
Right.
And you get to see behind the scenes, and you get to see what it's really like and how they manipulate people, and how it'll make you both mad and sad at the same time, but it's definitely worth watching.
What's
and
it called?
Marjo, Marjoe, and you can get it on. It might be. It's not free, but you can get it on Amazon. Streaming. And you show this to a born-again Christian, especially from the South, and their head might explode. Cognitive dissonance is a bitch.
Isn't it though?
Mm-hmm.
So just out of interest here, just to kind of loop her back to the sun again, because we got about a half hour left here. But I just found this, and I thought this was pretty cool. This is the first ever recorded photo of a solar eclipse, which was taken in July of 1851.
Wow.
How cool is that? And you can even see the little solar flares.
Wow, that's pretty damn good for an 1851 friggin' stand still and poof camera, isn't it? I mean,
exactly. Wow. Exactly. It says Johann Julius Frederick Burkowski made this using a daguerreotype process. So if anybody knows about that, that's the one on that's the one on glass. It uses.
We know what I bet, because whenever you took pictures back then, people had to stand still for it to get enough light for an exposure. You're taking a picture of an eclipse with that corona. You probably had plenty of light, so it probably didn't take nearly as long for it to expose.
That would make sense.
Would be my guess.
And this was taken from the Royal Observatory in Königsberg, Prussia, which is now part called Kaliningrad in Russia. So he was a local daguerreotypist, observed it at the Royal Observatory, and he used a small 6-centimeter refracting telescope attached to his, it's an 18.8 centimeter Fraunhofer heliometer, which I'm assuming is the type of camera. And
I've heard of
84-second exposure taken shortly before the beginning of totality. So
that's cool.
I thought that was really cool.
It is cool, yeah.
Like, you can even see the solar flares, which I think
you really can. You can see them jumping out there. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, like that's incredible to me.
That probably was a big deal back then. I bet that circulated. I bet there was a lot of people excited about that.
I bet you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't recall reading anything about it, but damn. There we go. And then I have one of your photos, Stephen. I've got it up here, so there's no personal information here, which should be good, but yours is pretty damn good too. Check this out. So that's one of Steven's pictures he took today.
Cool. Yeah, I've
nice.
seen some really impressive photography from amateurs. You know, not NASA, but
right.
One I saw today that you could see the flares, but you could see them. I mean, they must have added some type of filter for coloring, and it was really kind of cool. I mean, I've seen 3 eclipses partially and full, and see this one I was saying before the show. While for me, I mean, to me it isn't that big a deal, but in a sense it is, because we have younger kids that are seeing something like this, I hope, for the first time.
Yeah.
I know my one friend who is an astronomer, not a Neil deGrasse Tyson pedestal type astronomer, but it was his first solar eclipse that we saw when we were probably 79, when we were in school, because we did the little pinhole thingy, and that's what got him into astronomy.
Oh wow, that's neat.
Okay, there's the movie poster for
Marjo. Yeah,
Marjo.
It won Best Documentary that year, and it didn't play in the South because they were afraid there'd be riots.
Wow. I gotta check this out.
Yeah, I recommend it. Yep.
Cool beans. It also kind of reminds me of the movie Kumari. Did you see that?
Yes,
Steve?
saw that as well. Yeah, I think both of those are required viewing for skeptics, if you ask me. But you know,
what's that
Absolutely.
one about?
Kumari. It's this guy who's of Indian descent, like Indian. And he
totally American, though. I mean, completely like American.
Yes, very American. But he goes back to the homeland and learns about the guru culture over there. And so he decides to do an experiment. When he comes home, he grows his hair out, grows like the beard and everything, starts dressing like traditional Indian guru kind of way, and practices having an Indian accent. And he starts like a retreat kind of thing. And he gets all these people to come to his retreat. They're all Americans, right? A lot of white people.
California.
In California. And the whole thing he says over, like, this is for months where he runs this retreat. And he keeps saying over and over, I'm not who you think I am.
I'm not real. This is a fake.
This is a fake. I'm not real. You don't need guidance. You can figure life out on your own, all of this. And they're eating it up, but they're treating him just like a guru.
And then has some mystical meaning, you know. There's
Yeah.
And it goes from him sort of trolling people, sort of at first trolling people, to being like, these people are sharing their deepest thoughts with me. They're asking me to help solve their marriage problems and their problems with their kids. It goes from being sort of funny to kind of dead serious. He's like, I don't know. I don't deserve this much power. I'm just pretending to be someone who has some wisdom that doesn't really exist. And then, of course, the kicker, you should watch it, is whenever he reveals himself to them.
Yes. That was awesome.
I was afraid. I was genuinely terrified as to what might happen.
What's it called?
Kumari.
Kumari.
Kumare. Now,
just an FYI, as far as Marjo, I'm a YouTube freak, so because I don't have TV, but there's nothing on YouTube as far as the documentary, but I've only done 1 or 2 pages. But there are a lot of excerpts and stuff, and like other, stuff relating to it.
Oh yeah.
So.
And he did it. And after he retired, he tried to start being an actor and made a couple of really bad B movies.
That's where I recognize he was in Earthquake. He played the nutty guy in Earthquake that kidnapped the girl.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
That's where I recognize him from, because I'm looking at the picture and I'm like, that's it, actor from Earthquake. They should have him, it's like, but it's him.
Shit, that's funny.
So
I think it was the 74 or 76 that came out.
Here we go.
There's Kumari right there. Yeah.
Yep. True story of a false prophet.
You'll have to send me the title of that dub because I've heard of it, but I've never watched it. I'll have to look for it.
It's definitely worth. He was also in a terrible movie. He was also in a terrible movie called Star Crash. It was you might have seen it on Mystery Science Theater 3.
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't. But...
Oh God, it's terrible, like trying to make money off of Star Wars back in the '80s, and it was done by. It's also got David Hasselhoff in it, and it was one of those. What's his name? Anyway,
God, he doesn't even look like he used to.
No.
The Gortner dude.
No.
He's like. He looks. I mean, he used to. Oh God! Now I'm gonna have to pull that movie out because I have the DVD.
Yes, you do.
Shit.
Well, if it's a disaster flick, I have the DVD. I have this thing for disaster flicks, and the worse they are, the better.
Avalanche. Have you seen Avalanche?
I have about 75 on DVD. So I'm trying to get them all, and I did not to sidetrack our conversation.
Oh, that's
my dream was to get all the disaster movies I could find. So
well, Avalanche is absolutely wretched, by the way.
Oh, it's horrid, yes, but it's good, but it's bad. And I figured, maybe 200-300. They have like some of the apocalyptic day after movies as disasters, and I don't include them. And there was over 5,000.
Yeah, it can't be the end of the world. It's just got to be like people trapped on a boat or on the side of a mountain or in a well or something.
But this list I found had like 5,300 different movies, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm never gonna get all of them because at the time DVDs were the big thing. And
right. Oh well. I can feel your pain because I'm a huge B movie nerd, especially sci-fi and fantasy B movies.
Yeah.
And there's so many of them, and so many of them are so bad. But Star Crash is fantastically bad because it has Marjo, the televangelist, as a sort of superhero Jedi character.
Oh, fuck.
And there's a robot with a Texas accent that looks like a butt plug.
I am into it.
Yes, it's a Roger Corman
Here we
movie.
are.
We'll have to swap lists later.
All right.
Mine's pretty small
shit.
because most of my stuff is still stuck in Kansas, but I'm trying to rebuild, but I'm not buying DVDs. I mean, well, I'll probably have to get another hard drive if I keep doing this. But it's the same problem. Like my cousin is a musician. He's the Emmy winner, Grammy winner, and I ran into the same problem. Oh, he can't have that many songs. Well, he's got the entire 3 Cars soundtrack. He's like music. Well, he's written for the Winners Brothers. He's got over 1,500, 1,600.
Oh wow!
DVDs. I'm like,
damn.
Why do people have to do that? It's like people that are poor like me can't afford that shit.
Yeah. So
what do we got here?
There's butt plug Texas robot, Marjo the Jedi in the background, and of course the main character is a woman who dresses in as little as possible through the entire movie, looking like some sort of space vampirella. Yeah.
I remember. God, that's bringing back memories.
It's really bad. Anyway.
Maybe this is what I should watch in between to distract my mind reading the crap I've been reading.
There you go. There you go.
We all need distractions.
What was the Eclipse one? What was the Eclipse one again, Steven? You said there was a B Eclipse movie.
Is there? Oh, you just mean the man from Planet X? That wasn't an Eclipse.
That's right. That's right.
Now that movie's actually kind of good. Like, it's enjoyable. It's a good movie. I mean, it is 1950s, sci-fi. Yeah. It's actually a good one.
I swear, I don't know where I saw this, if it was on like Netflix or something, but 3 or 4 years ago, I remember catching one purely by accident, and I don't remember the name of it, but it was like an early 50s, so it was black and white, and it was about these aliens that look like giant brains that floated around, and they were in a mine or something, and then they could take over a human, and so you could see like the human would look like it had a giant floaty brain superimposed over.
I think I know what that movie is. That movie is. There's a name for it. It's the brains talk really loudly and have a booming voice.
Yeah,
it could be the brain from the planet Aros.
Yes,
maybe. I don't remember. It's been a while since I saw it, but I remember sitting there going, "What the fuck am I watching?" But I can't stop.
Or it could be Fiend Without a Face. Did it have a spinal cord? Was it giant or was it regular size?
It was giant, and I think it had like part of the spinal cord.
I think that's the brain from planet Aros. Arous, however that's pronounced.
Okay, I have a proposition for.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
All right. We need to do an episode on bad B sci-fi movies and have Stephen back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one.
Just for fun.
Yeah, sure.
That's it. The brain from planet Aros.
Yep.
So here I'll show you. This is what I remembered.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
How do y'all do screen share?
There's the second icon down on the left when you there's the chat one, and it's like the green with a white arrow.
Yep.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, I gotta see if I can get this. I just found this meme just popped up, and I gotta share it if I can.
Okay. Yep, the brain from planet Aros.
Yeah.
Shows, so it should be. You guys will probably get a kick out of it. Let's see if I can do this.
Okay.
Yeah, so we gotta find. Yeah, if we're going to do B movies, we got to find B movies that have some relationship with conspiracy theories or Christianity. And we don't want to do god awful movies. We don't want to do that.
No.
But there are some movies out there that deal with subjects that we find near and dear to our hate.
This is because I remember one of them took over the dog for a while.
Oh my gosh. What?
Yeah.
What's this?
Yeah.
Are those its eyes? Like the little glowy thing?
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Obvious inspiration for creature like Kang from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or just your brain creature.
Oh no, that's not them. But yeah, there we go. Oh look, this is when they're trying to kill him. Beating the giant floaty brain with a hammer.
Looks like she looks like she's dancing in the background.
Yeah.
I know. She's like,
I always wonder why anything that was just an exposed brain would be a threat, because I mean, you just hit it with anything and it's dead, right?
Yeah.
She's all like,
hula. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or at least a glass bowl or something.
Mm-hmm.
That would be good. Okay, so far, it might take a minute, Beth, because of your. There we go. Ew.
Eclipse is
It's an eclipse.
So we see Barack Obama being superimposed over a screaming Donald Trump face, and that was the eclipse.
If I had nothing else to say about Donald Trump besides the way that he acts during press conferences, that would be enough for me not wanting him as president. I was listening to Cognitive Dissonance today, and they were playing the part where he was basically hemming and hawing about Charlottesville, and saying there was bad people on both sides, not all the Nazis were bad, and the way he treated, the arrogance, and just I've never seen any president ever act that way to other people.
Well,
like walking up to the first lady of France and be like, wow, she's been built pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I think not to sidetrack too much because I've been really good about not doing that tonight. But
you have.
Trust me, I've been biting my tongue. But I think what's really disgusting is with the whole Charlottesville incident and the aftermath with Trump is that he's now in Phoenix. Okay, in fact, his press conference should be going on right now. And allegedly, he is thinking on pardoning Joe Arpaio.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, now
Wait,
for those that may not...
He was charged federally, right?
Yeah,
now,
yes.
For those that don't know who Joe Arpaio is, he's basically
It's Arpaio. Arpaio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've heard it sounded Arpaio, so... But he's basically a racist fuck who was a sheriff down in Arizona that...
Yeah, he was a hero of the right.
Maricopa County.
He was so cruel.
Yeah, he was very, very cruel. So if anybody has... And I think this is what part of the frustration I'm having this week in discussions with people. If anybody doubts Trump not being a Nazi, that should answer it right there. And people are like, well, they think Joe Arpaio is like God reincarnated. So it's like,
yeah.
And then you throw and what makes it worse is, going back to the whole eclipse thing, is they're throwing this garbage, religious bullshit about the eclipse, and it's like, dudes, see, we've known about the eclipse for hundreds of years, if not longer.
Yeah.
I mean, they're predictable. I mean, I gave the date and the time of the next one in 168 days.
Yeah, and
I mean, it's like we know when this shit's gonna happen,
and we know what the narrative would be if it were, different circumstances. If Hillary Clinton were president, it would be, oh, the apocalypse is coming. Oh, she's the Antichrist.
That's the sign of she's the devil. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like and I've actually heard people say that, Morgan. I mean, that in some in regards to President Trump, and it's like, make up your fucking mind. Make up my mind. I mean, to try to debunk any of this. I mean, debunk any of this, you gotta delve into Steve's land. I mean, it's like,
yeah.
I mean, I look at somebody that that is not as well versed in the sciences, and they're going like this.
Yeah.
It's like, seriously. I mean, and this is the thing. Like, one of the takeaways I wanted to get from tonight for me is, how, from your perspective, how do we take, when we know it's bullshit, how do we communicate that it's bullshit and these people are just off the rockers?
Well,
I mean, especially when you tie into politics and all the other BS going on.
I've been beating my head against the wall for months trying to figure that out. It's depressing. I'm not certain there is a way.
Thanks, Steven.
Yeah. I don't know how you can convince these people. They've shut down their reason.
It's hard to combat willful ignorance. Willfully, because they think, excuse me, especially the ones wrapped up with all the religion shit, that anything science or factual based is Satan trying to fuck them over for heaven. And that's all they care about. What's that, Morgan?
I said,
or fake news.
Everything is fake news. And I saw a study that came out that said 6 out of 10 Trump supporters, it may have been higher, it literally does not matter what he does or what he says. They will always stand behind him.
Yeah.
If I may quote Thomas Paine, of all people, to argue with a man who has renounced the use of reason is like administering medicine to the dead.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's a good example of someone who's so fucking arrogant and beyond reason that he's ignoring the fact that you shouldn't look straight into the fucking sun. during it, even during an eclipse or any time. But there he is, squinting away, trying to show that he don't have to abide by anything factual.
And with the odds, there's a chance that it won't have done him any harm, and there's a chance that it will have, but he will hide it or won't admit it. And they'll say, "See, he, that it always happens." That they always. The truth with these people is never just out front. They never admit that they're wrong.
And that's the thing that's so annoying with I mean, one of the things I've run into, and not just surrounding the eclipse, but in general, is it's fake news. Everything is fake news. And it's like, no, it's not fake news. It's you don't like what's being said.
Yep.
I mean, there's no, I mean, that's the whole catchphrase now, that
actual fake news tends to be something that sounds really too good to be true.
Actual fake news was invented. Actual fake news was invented by the right-wing Christians. Fake news is Alex Jones. Fake news is all the shit on Christian Bible Network. That's fake news.
Mercola.
Yeah, and people were trying to warn others about this fake news that was coming out of a right, and the right just took that term and ran with it.
Which is what good liars do.
And now fake news is almost, a joke among my friends. If one of us says something, whatever, it'll be like fake news, just as a joke. Or whatever. But it's become like a joke, and it's
just like Nazis claiming to be victims.
Yes. Yeah. So, Stephen, for a slightly ignorant Canadian like me, what is the significance of this particular flag, and why is it a negative? Because I've actually wondered. I did eventually Google it, although I'm still a little hazy as to why it's a bad thing. But
a bad thing in and of itself. It was the "Don't Tread on Me" flag was the Gadsden flag. He was designed by a guy named Christopher Gadsden. He was a politician and general in 1775 during the American Revolution. It was used by the Continental Marines and early motto. It has been usurped by alt-left, ultra-libertarian groups who are claiming that the government is treading on them. And so going back to the founding fathers' principles of leave me the fuck alone, government. Let me have my racism and my monopoly. And so it's become a symbol of some extreme libertarianism. It's become a symbol, of white people wanting the government not to, even to going so far as your what do you call them? Your sovereign citizens.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Did you mean to say alt right when you said alt left?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. I was making sure, because I was like, I haven't.
That was a fraud. That was a Freudian Trump.
A Freudian
Trump.
Yeah, because I said something that doesn't exist. So yeah. So a lot of people on the right, on the far right, a lot of conspiracy theorist types love this Gadsden flag, the "Don't Tread on Me" flag. Leave my fuck alone. Get the government out of my life.
Taxation is theft.
Yeah,
taxation is theft. Exactly.
Except that when they want to dictate who anybody fucks or sleeps with. Or
government so small can fit in your vagina.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Well, it's actually coming up on the end of the show, folks. Time flies. So, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us. It was a lot of fun. And we enjoyed having you around.
That flag I put up said, "Don't try to reason with me." Instead of "Don't tread on me." That was the joke. But anyway, all right.
I like
that. Yes.
Yeah.
That's all
right. Not that the original flag was that bad, but it's been used to bad purpose. But anyway.
Yeah, no, we always have fun, and maybe we'll have to do a B-movie sometime. That might be fun too.
That would be great fun. Maybe we could all watch the same one. I'll keep my eyes peeled for a relevant
we could totally do that.
Yeah.
We could totally do that. Shit, that's funny. I don't know. Do you have anything you want to mention, or do you have where people can find you or anything?
Yeah, well, you can find me on Facebook. I still barely maintain the Professor Stephen page on Facebook. I apologize. I've been sort of out of the community for a while. Let me be honest. Come clean with you here. I've been depressed with the skeptic community over the last half a year, and it sort of killed my will to produce content. And I'm wanting to get back into it, but when I see people arguing over who's worse, Nazis or black people who don't like being shot, I get kind of disheartened. You know,
understandable.
But we'll see.
Okay.
Right now, I'm just taking a hiatus.
Yeah. That's all right. Well, you're a busy guy.
We'll just have to keep having you back. That's all.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, we could put you on. We could put you on rotation.
Well, at least you can have me back for a bad movie night.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, and you have yourself a great evening, and we will hopefully see you very soon.
All right, I will. Thank you very much for having me.
And Beth, where do we find you?
Easiest way is on Twitter, Dune998. That connects to my blog, Havoc and Chaos, and it also connects to my Facebook, which is under Beth A. Hambridge. And I just did some content for YouTube the other day, and it is a rant about Charlottesville. And why it's been me biting my tongue all night is that a lot of people don't realize I actually have extended family who are survivors of the first Nazi fruitcake. So I have a very hard issue with everything that's transpiring. But yeah, that's the easiest way to find me. Friend me on Facebook. Just make sure you send me a little note if you can that it's from the show. I've been getting some really strange friend requests.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I am a lesbian and I do like tits, but please don't send me tit pictures.
Send them to me.
Yeah, send them to
Steven knows it.
I mean, and when you have 0 friends, it makes me wonder. And I have picked up some really unusual followers on Twitter. Now, I don't do a lot on Twitter, but I've picked up some really strange, I will say, religionists. I'm not quite sure what they're... Yeah, it's really odd. I'm wondering... Now, they haven't commented or anything, but it's like... It's like, dude, I don't think you're going to be successful at trying or do that, because there's a couple women ministers as well, and reconverting me back to Christianity, or any religion for that matter. So yeah, just let me know it's from the show, or, you're friends with somebody I know or whatnot, because most likely I will ignore it if not.
Awesome. So. And Morgan, where do we find you?
All right, you can catch me on the Bi Skeptical podcast with Trav Mamone. It comes out about every 2 weeks on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spreaker. We just did an episode about Charlottesville where I mainly rant about Confederate monuments, because there's one in my city, and then there's one on my college campus. And
lovely.
Yep, it's great. And so, except for it's not. And you can also find me on Twitter at Mostring. That's at MOSTRING. And you can also find me on Facebook, Morgan L. Stringer.
Awesome. Great. Well, and of course, you can find me often on Holy Crap, the Vlogcast, which goes on at 12:05 a.m. on Sunday mornings, because we are trying to compete with Coast to Coast Radio woo bullshit. And that's hosted by Shujin Tribble and a bunch of us panelists type people. And we talk about all kinds of things secular. Didn't make it last week. I was out in the woods with a bunch of heathens camping. So we had some fun that way instead. But I should be there this week. It was. There was even a young lady who was walking around in a rabbit ear onesie in the next campground, which was
that sounds like fun too.
Yes, that's what a number of the guys said. Yeah, they asked her. They asked her if she was an alien because of the way the light fell on her, and she came over and said, "No, I'm a bunny, and look, I have a tail and everything." And Several gentlemen appreciated that. So
I'm sure they did.
But anyway, yeah, we'll be back, of course, next week, and we're still on at 7:30 in case people are wanting to come live and listen. Just works a little easier for us. And Tracy had to work tonight, so she sent her regards, and she should hopefully be back next week as well. And before we go, we do want to mention the Whitefields Educational Foundation, which has the Taylor Scholarship, started by David Michael of My Book of Mormon, and they provide counseling for people who have left or are leaving religion and want someone professional to talk about that. And the Taylor Scholarship provides funding for people who need someone to talk to but can't afford to pay the fee. So if you want to support a charity, we certainly recommend that one. And we do have a Patreon too, and if you ever feel like throwing us a buck or two, we'd certainly appreciate it. We use that to pay for our Spreaker hosting, so that's much appreciated. And I think that about does it for this week. And so we will see everybody next week as usual, and we will close out with Foda's Human Creed for Mankind, and we'll see everybody next week.
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance, and I will do so whenever the opportunity presents itself. I know the truth and power of morality without supervision, and of true and accurate righteousness. I know the truth and power of obliterating tyranny, be it intellectual, emotional, or philosophical, and will work toward that goal whenever and however possible. I know the truth and power of human ingenuity. I know the truth and power of human compassion, and I will be mindful of the welfare of others. I know the truth and power of equality and fairness for all living things. I know the truth and power of the importance of our families, our friends, and our fellow men and women. I know the truth and power of human stewardship of our lands, our waters, and our skies, and I will try to act to preserve our environment. I know the truth and power of the sciences of mathematics, of physics, and of chemistry, and of the important role of these disciplines in understanding the workings of this cosmos. I know the truth and power of the rejection of all notions or beliefs that reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.